Hello, everyone, and welcome to the rebranded podcast, the Furtado Show, where I, Coach Justin Furtado, share about my experience from the week as a growing young leader through some of my growing pains. I talk about how to be a great team player and how to continue to get better 1% each day. So I'm going to be sharing insights, learnings. So today I want to share a mistake that I made, and I wrote about it in the newsletter today. It's about setting clear expectations. And so yesterday when I was coaching basketball, right, at the end of our, so it's not an actual team that I'm coaching, it's like Royal Basketball School. And so at the end of the hour, we always scrimmage, right? And this is when parents are the most actively engaged. And to be honest, it's kids, right? When you're scrimmaging, if you remember, no matter what sport it is, it's the most fun, right? Because it's the game, it's the action. The drills they're great, but really playing the game, that's what we all want to do, right? And so I have this player that I'm actually probably closest with out of in this group. Closest with, I have him demonstrate and show how to do a lot of the drills, right? So we have a good relationship with one another. And in the game, all right, I tend to try and be a bad ref, just so the players and the kids can kind of understand what it's like to have a bad referee. And in this time, right, like with all these people watching and everything, I actually used to, before I even go into this situation, one of the reasons I feel like it's really important for the kids to have that referee experience is because I was a hothead when I was a player. I'm very, I talk a lot about kindness and compassion, and it's probably not something that you think, especially for me, but I got a lot of technical fouls, especially in basketball. I just chew out umpires, right? Like I was, when the competition hit the fan, I didn't have a lot of emotional regulation, and it honestly definitely hurt me in my playing time, especially as a basketball player. So it's something that I feel like important, and that's why I address it in the way of like, I'm just going to be a bad ref, so you have to get used to this, right? And I need to kind of go deeper in, and we'll talk about that in a little bit after I talk about these situations. So here we are. We're actually most of the way through it. We're almost done with the scrimmage, and there's a play where the ball was out on, I believe it was out on blue, and it's clearly out on blue, right? And the white team's like, out on blue, out on blue, out on blue, just yelling. And you know what? I was just like, I'm going to make a terrible call right now. And I was like, out on white, blue ball. And the player I referenced earlier goes, you suck, right? And I yell across the court, like, go take a seat, right? Go take a seat. You don't, that's not what you do, right? And looking back on it, and I don't know whether I'm overthinking or not, I stand in the principle of having him take a seat because of what he said, but it's maybe because of how I did it. It was embarrassing for him because you have your coach, / referee at the time, having you take a seat, especially because it's probably confusing for him because we have that good relationship. So he's like, what in the world, right? And sometimes he kind of tries to test me a little bit, but that's like the first time I really, kind of drew my line in the sand. And I, reflected on it. I'm like, I don't think I've set clear enough expectations around how to interact with referees, right? So for me, next time, and I'm going to address it actually today, is I'm going to be like, I'm not going to use this person's name. So I'm going to, hey Roger, right? His name's obviously not Roger. I'm going to address the whole team. Before we play, like the referees, number one, we have 2 eyes, maybe 4 eyes if there's 2 of us, and we're not going to be able to see everything, right? And all referees are just going to be like that. They're going to be volunteers. They're going to be trying to do their best. And I want to talk to them about some behaviors where, this is how you approach a referee, right? Because I wish I had that, kind of mindset when I was a player, right? So when you disagree with a call, especially if someone's fouling you, go instead of saying, hey, he's fouling, right? And just like yelling, right? That actually angers the referee more, and I know that's what I used to do. So maybe, trying to give them the skills to, number one, it's probably emotionally regulate, right? That's something I need to talk about, right? And that's like side from the clear expectations, but expectations of like, you do not get to say you suck to a referee. That is not something you do. And if you do that, then you take a seat, right? So the player, Roger, was very confused, like, oh, I just said you suck, right? I never talked about that as an expectation of you saying you suck, you have to sit, right? And that's on me, right? So that's part of the reason he was so embarrassed at the end. He wouldn't talk to me, right? It's because I stand on the principle that he needed to take a seat, and you can't say you suck, right? But I needed to set the clear expectation for all players. I am a little bit harder on him as well. And just setting that clear expectation and boundary for everyone. You can't say you suck to a referee, even if you disagree with the call, right? You can think about it in your head. And, some of these things, I as I'm honestly here talking, right, this is something that I need to address because it's something that they probably should be bringing into the classroom or even into their lives as siblings or as sons and daughters, right? We have to be able to emotionally regulate and understand that there are going to be bad calls in life, and talking about that as well. But really, for you that's listening as a young leader, or maybe you're not even in a leadership, and can even be for yourself, setting those clear expectations, right? Like, I can apply this to myself, right? In the mornings, like, I expect myself to drink a cup of coffee and write an essay. Okay, so I like to write on the internet. That's my expectation for myself in the morning. So if I don't meet that, I know that I'm not meeting the expectations. So being as crystal clear as you can, right? And then even if I wanted to go further, I want it to be 12 ounces of coffee with a little bit of oat milk, and right, I want to write about sports on Mondays. This is just an example, but setting that expectation or for your team or those boundaries. That's something that I have. That's one thing that I'm still learning a lot as a leader, is really setting those clear expectations and boundaries at the beginning, right? Like right now I'm talking, like, when I'm talking, you're not dribbling, you're not talking to your friends, right? But it's more, right? And you don't want to do too many rules, and then it's like, then you get rebellion, right? You want to get simple things. You need to get things that they can buy in on and be like, all right, I understand that. So it's a balance, right? And it's something that I'm still learning as a young coach and a young leader. But I hope you all got something out of this podcast. I'd love to connect with you on, setting expectations and setting boundaries, however you kind of interpreted this podcast. Feel free to connect with me on social media, Coach Furtado, O, Twitter and Instagram. And you can go from there. I'd love to have a conversation, right? This is why I create content. I don't create content to grow, to massive following, right? Like, that's great if that ends up happening, but I really just want to connect with other coaches, other young leaders like yourself. So appreciate y'all. Have a wonderful weekend. Tune in every Friday to the Furtado Friday Show. I'll talk about something that I learned from the week, and we'll just dive into it. We'll have some fun. If you got something out of this, please share it with a friend. Please follow, subscribe, leave a review. It's how this podcast is able to grow. We're able to kind of share the message, share the experience about what it's like to be kind of a young leader, because this is more, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a leadership guru, right? But I want to share my experience as a young leader, the growing pains and the glows as well. So have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you in your ear or on YouTube next week.